Hey guys, you're watching PhoneArena's in-depth video comparison between the Samsung Focus, which is a Windows Phone 7 powered device, and the Samsung Captivate, an Android-powered smartphone. They're both priced at $200, currently available through AT&T. So if you consider checking out a smartphone, wondering whether or not choose a Windows device or a Android, we'll check out these two and see what they have to offer in terms of features and see how their performance stacks up against one another. When it comes down to design, both smartphones exhibit the same exact design cues. First of all, they're both extremely thin, streamlined devices. They measure at 0.39 inches thick, so it's going to fit into pockets very easily. And for something you hold in the hand, it's quite manageable for having a large display. Just in dimensions, the focus is a little bit longer and wider, but it's not that much. You're not going to notice the difference at all when you hold it. With the focus, though, it employs a little bit more plastic elements, which has a tendency to get a lot of debris and even smudges on the back. On top of that, it does scratch a little bit, but we do like the cutouts on the side and the curved appeal of the handset. Pretty clean too, so we're still happy with it. While the Captivate, it's a little bit more cleaner looking, straight hard lines with it, some tapered edges here, but the back cover is metallic plating, which resists some dirt and debris smudges, so it looks pretty clean, but does employ some plastic elements to its construction. Still, they're both solid in construction, and we're pretty happy with the designs of both handsets. Obviously, the standout feature with both handsets is the fact that they employ 4-inch Super AMOLED displays, which is one of the better display technologies out there in the market, just because they provide for some rich and saturated looking colors, deep blacks, vibrant, a lot of vibrancy, and just very, very pleasing to the eye when you look at it. We're just happy with the amount of luminance it also exhibits. They offer great viewing angles, so you're not going to lose sight at any angle, and we're pretty pleased, especially in low light conditions. It really stands out. It has just a nice luster to it. On top of that, it's WVGA resolution, so that's 480 by 800 pixels. And just reading out the smallest of text, very easy on both, so it offers the same pixel density. Very responsive too. We didn't have any problems as far as navigating between it registering our touches. And overall, we're pretty happy with the display. It's by far their biggest features. Even though both employ capacitor buttons directly beneath their touchscreens, we prefer the ones on the Samsung Focus just because there's a lot of spacing in between the buttons to prevent any accidental presses, while on the Captivate it's a little bit more cramped. On the right side of both handsets, you have the dedicated power buttons of both. We definitely like the distinctive feel of the Samsung Captivate. It just sticks out a little bit more versus the recessed one on the Focus. But luckily, the Focus does offer a dedicated camera key to quickly launch the camera application. Well, on the right side of the phone, you're going to find the volume rockers. We like the feel of both just because they're fairly well sized. And on top of that, they offer a pretty good distinctive tactile feel when you press them down. At the top, the layout is the same. We have the 3.5mm headset jacks found in the same location, as well as the micro USB ports. We like the fact that they're both hidden by the plastic latch, which prevents any dust or debris from getting in. Finally, on the back of the devices, you're going to find the 5-megapixel autofocus camera. Naturally, the Samsung Focus is highlighted with an LED flash, which is something that's lacking on the Captivate. Removing the back cover with the Captivate, it's a pretty interesting mechanism. You have to pull out the metallic back cover, and you get access to the battery, the SIM card slot, and the micro SD card slot. With the Focus, it's just simply a plastic cover that comes off like that, and you get access to the same stuff. Seeing that there are already some similarities that we saw with both handsets in terms of design, the ultimate question is going to come down to which platform experience you want to side with. On one hand, you have the Samsung Focus with Windows Phone 7, still a relatively new platform, and for something that's brand new, it's pretty promising just because it seems very polished just from the start. It has a unique theme of being very fast and swift as far as moving at the platform. We're on the Captivate. Of course, it's Android 2.1 right now. It offers a lot of personalization, such as the different wallpapers and the widgets, and even live wallpapers to make it really stand out. But as far as personalization with the Focus, you have the live tiles that will display things like Facebook statuses and even pictures. So it's constantly going to be aggregating a bunch of stuff. But whichever one you do choose, you're just going to know that they're going to be pretty quick and swift without any evidence of any lag or slowdown. The messaging experience presented by both handsets is actually going to be fairly fantastic just because the keyboards are pretty decent in size, and on top of that you could see that it's very responsive. We have barely any problems as far as just typing away really fast, and even when you switch to the landscape option, it gives you more space, so you're not going to have too much of a problem as far as making a text message. When it comes down to web browsing, we're more than satisfied by the performance that they offer. First off, they both have render pages just like you see them on a computer in a pretty fair amount of time. On top of that, they both offer multi-touch gesture support to zoom in, zoom out. But the Samsung Focus is a little bit more smooth as far as scrolling is concerned. You could tell that that there's a little bit of choppiness with the Captivate, but it's not that bad at all. It's still going to be quite manageable. If you zoom in real quick here, and then if we can just do a little bit more kinetic scrolling, as you could tell, it's just pretty smooth looking with the Focus, with the Internet Explorer. But still, both handsets are pretty great, and you're not going to have any problems web browsing with them. Between the two, they both offer their own unique music player interfaces that are quite nice to look at, very glitzy, and on top of that, they're very well presented. With the Samsung Focus, you get the full-blown Zune experience, so you can browse by albums, the songs. It even will tell you about the biography of the specific music artist you're playing. And on top of that, you could tell with the background, it downloads the associated picture. When you begin to play a song, it displays the album cover, the track information, and even the on-screen controls. With the Samsung Captivate, it has a similar approach to it. You can break it down to different categories, but if you tilt it to landscape, the neat thing about it, it has this nice carousel which you can move through your different albums or your artists. And when you play a song, it pretty much follows similarly to what's offered on the Focus. It'll display things like the album cover, the track information, even on-screen controls. As far as audio quality, they're going to be the same as far as tone is concerned. So it's going to be quite pleasing to the ear, very strong. But with the Captivate, there's a bunch of different equalizer settings to really fine-tune the audio quality. Thanks to their wonderful and brilliant looking Super AMOLED displays, they're able to play videos very well. On the top you have the Samsung Captivate, the bottom we have the Samsung Focus. The video we're playing here is encoded in MPEG-4, 1280 by 720 resolution, so it's going to be really high quality, lots of detail. On top of that, you could tell that it's running very smoothly with no evidence of any lag or slowdown. And on top of that, thanks to the Samsung Super AMOLED panel, it just makes colors stand out a lot better than most devices. If you happen to love taking photos, you're going to be extremely satisfied with the level of production offered by both devices. On the top, we have samples taken with the Samsung Captivate, while the bottom are the ones with the Focus. If we zoom into this shot that we took, you could tell it captures a lot of stunning details, very sharp looking. On top of that, the exposure looks dead on. And finally, the color reproduction is also natural looking, so you have really nice looking colors in any lighting condition. If we show you another shot here with the reds, it's pretty much the same with the car here. If we zoom in specifically to the car, you can still see that it manages to capture a lot of detail. So for those who love photos, you're going to be happy with both. But it is worth noting that the Samsung Focus offers an LED flash, so in low lighting conditions, it's going to illuminate your shots. With video recording, the performance is going to be identical to one another just because they offer 720p right off the bat, and the frame rate is pretty smooth. There's plenty of detail with their shots, and we're pretty happy with the overall results exhibited by both. So if you're going to be taking videos just like photos, it's going to be more than acceptable for anyone out there. So far, we've seen both handsets radiate the same level of performance in various categories, but the same thing applies with calling quality. In fact, the earpieces themselves in both handsets are pretty deafening, have a lot stronger tones than your average phone. And on top of that, as far as voice calling quality is concerned, there is a little bit of hissiness to voices on our end, while callers did say voices have a little bit of a muteness to it and also muffled sounding. When using the speakerphone, though, they offer a high level of output, so it makes it very easy to hear our callers. During our time testing both handsets, we didn't experience any connections with the network or any dropped calls. Luckily, the bigger thing about it is the fact that they offer phenomenal battery life, better than most other smartphones out there in the market. In fact, it'll easily last a solid day at even heavy usage. So for those using it normally for just some web browsing, text messaging, and occasional phone call, you're going to be really surprised by its output. You could probably get out 2 days before requiring a charge, but the Super AMOLED display makes it very optimized as far as battery life is concerned. With that, there's no denying that both handsets offer a high level of performance with their respective platforms, but the bigger question that you have to answer is which platform experience you're going to want to side with. With the Samsung Focus, Windows Phone 7 is still relatively new to the game, but for something being brand new already, it's quite polished right now, and down the road it's going to get more features to make it a little bit more fine-tuned. While on the Samsung Captivate, it has all the rich features of the Android experience, and with Android 2.2 Froyo down the road for the handset, it's going to give it a little bit more features as well. But they both offer really nice looking designs, although they quite differ in terms of choice of materials, but the construction is fantastic. The level of their cameras is also the same. They produce some stunning looking photos and great battery life with both devices, so you really can't go wrong with either one. So if you'd like to learn more about both handsets or for all the latest cell phone reviews, news, specs, and information, you can check us out at PhoneArena.com.